So everyone who's here is the present Breaking Through participants, just the BIPOC folks. We can talk about the content, the case studies, the homework, personal boundaries. I've noticed a theme, so I'm going to start with a topic today, which is I say exhausting relationships, but it's like more like familiar relationships. Why does this keep happening? So that's one thing. If you have other questions, please feel free to start putting it in the chat or as they come up, and you can raise your hand or just unmute. Why are we here to connect? So there's no right answer. There's no one who has to perform or be a good student, nothing. We're just here to kind of connect with each other and practice the skills. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. So a question that came up in multiple individual chats. So in case anyone felt special, you are not. I mean, you are special, but no more special than anybody else, right? That's what I tell my daughter. She's like, I am so special. And I'm like, yes, you are. Are you more important than anyone else? She's like, eye roll because she knows this. No. I'm like, yes, sure, you're special, but you're no more special than anybody else. And you're no less special than anybody else. Because that has to right size the boundary, right? Question right. Okay. So sorry, let me just get back. So bottom line is everything that we're learning is that everyone is the same size. And through the exploration we've been doing is identifying, right? And it's never like there's one right answer. It's just like a way to kind of start to explore boundaries of who's driving the bus for me. And then I'm going to make up stories who might be driving the bus for the other person, right? Because that's going to inform me. I'm building empathy for the other person. And if there's a familiarness to it, and I'm going to use the example of like dating, right? What I've coached some of my clients to do is before they jump into like a dating experience, I'm like, let's just approach with some questions and caution, because if there's like an intense charge or attraction, you just want to make sure that it's like vetted. Okay. So for instance, using this as an example, if I was in childhood, this is a fictional piece, and I was used to my parents in a violent situation, right? Like either escalated voices or physically violent, some would name this like domestic violence. If I witnessed that within my parents' relationship and I either like intervened or tried to calm one person down or like walked on eggshells, that type of thing, my nervous system is going to be used to that dynamic of a perpetrator, because any perpetrator is a wounded child, like has wounding, right? Hurt people hurt people. I'm going to be used to a perpetrator and a victim, right? That's going to be what's learned in my nervous system of what a romantic or intimate relationship is going to be like. So if in adulthood, right, I'm looking for a match and someone's there who's like, oh, sees me, validates me, is emotionally available, attunes to my needs, I'm going to be like, boring. Okay. I'm going to be like, oh, snooze. There's no attraction. Okay. Because it's not familiar, right? Even though this person is treating me really, really well, I'm not going to feel attracted because it's not a familiar patterning in my nervous system. Okay. If someone shows up who is very charismatic, right, makes me feel really loved, and then something I do gets really reactive, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it was my fault. I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me? Let me make it up to you. Let me change myself to get the love back, right? that kind of controlling relational dynamic will be more attractive to me because my nervous system knows exactly what to do in this dynamic, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean I always stay the victim. It will mean I will sometimes, you're so controlling, blah, blah, you're a horrible person. And then, like, so it'll flip. So that dynamic will be present because I will know what it's like to be on either end of that role. Okay. So one of the things I practice with folks who are learning this and trying to date and like make sure that they're dating someone who's a good match is just constantly questioning, how do you feel in your body with this person? Comfortable is not necessarily a green flag, because what's comfortable in my nervous system is that dynamic, right, of domestic violence or perpetrator victim or controlling and controlled. Does that make sense? So when we're meeting people and we're drawn to them, you want to question, what's the draw? Does not mean don't trust this person, does not mean don't be vulnerable, right? But it means you want to go in with eyes wide open and go, I asked for us not to do this, and this person is pushing me to do it right now. That's interesting. Kind of makes me think that they're not really interested in the boundaries that I'm setting, or they're prioritizing their wants over what I've asked for, right? So that's one dynamic to consider. Another like familiar patterning from childhood might be if a parent was not emotionally available. Okay, so say this is a super stressed out family. Maybe they were immigrant parents who are just trying to, make ends meet and were not available to attend to or nurture the child, right? If that were the case that I'm saying, right? If me and my parent or my caregiver, kids have needs, intense needs in young childhood, right? If the kid doesn't have that emotional availability from their parent, they're going to learn this. It's not the intention of the parent because they're just working. But for a young child with a limited brain development, they're going to internalize it as something deficient or not enoughness in them. That's why they didn't get the attention. Okay. And with that, maybe in tween or teenage years, they learn to adapt to be very charismatic, right? And very attentive to the and maybe prioritize their needs, right? So it might start to feel like this. The story I make up for this person, maybe they were centered a lot or adored, or, you have to see what the dynamic is, that it's going to attract both sides, right? So if you're with someone, if they were super centered, right, a little too much, or if they felt like a victim and really kind of lean makes it sound it's manipulative. That's not it. But the leaning on that identity is like, oh, my life is so hard, I'm having a really hard time. They're going to attract people who want to caretake. That's the natural attraction is. If I'm in victim, I'm going to naturally attract someone who's a really good fixer. Right? And that's how it presents in adult relationships. It'll at first feel like this, right? Oh, I'm attuning and attending and creating space. Oh, this person has lots of needs, so I'm going to prioritize a little bit, right? To make sure that their chaos or their thing that they're going through has a lot of space. But what's going to happen is, because I reinforce this dynamic that their needs are more important than mine, I'm going to start to get resentful or want to remove myself because I can't exist, right? which is a repeat of the child-parent dynamic when a parent has not been emotionally available. It'll reinforce that, well, I'm not as important, right? There's not enough space for me. Does that make sense? So it takes two to make that dynamic. Any questions or thoughts? Yes, Reva.
I guess what is your advice on like trying to break those patterns? Because just being transparent, I feel like I tend to show up in relationships as a fixer, and that makes it both. So I mentioned this, but I recently moved back to from New York. I recently moved back to New York last week. And I'm broadly excited about the move, but any move I think comes with like the good and the maybe not so good.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I'm sort of reflecting on is how do I come into like both old relationships that maybe don't feel like they fit so much anymore, and then also like there are some newer relationships that, I was here earlier in the year and like started making new friends. And I think, you know, I'm noticing this dynamic where when I meet new people, especially if I'm like in a good mood or good place, then like I'm very energetic in those initial interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And then what ends up happening is like I can be very present and in my like normal like when I have capacity, then
Mm-hmm.
like my intuition is just to like be the fixer. So if they bring me a problem, like I will be very involved in solving it. And that I think tends to show up like fairly early on in relationship
Mm-hmm.
building. So then
Mm-hmm.
when I am like not in such a good place, like and then they're reaching out, I'm like, I don't feel the level of like reciprocity in terms of like into not in like a negative way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I like I feel like I think I have this expectation of feeling more drained from the relationship, and so I've like distanced myself and like don't permit more intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that that's necessarily like that person's fault, right? But it's like kind of like patterns that are laid early on
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship building process, and like
Mm-hmm.
how do you, sorry, that's a very long example, but yeah, how do you try to offset that and like still create intimacy with new people so that you like have some foundation to build off of? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have superficial interactions with people where I don't have the opportunity to like then try to build a relationship from there. So,
Sure. So first off, question, raise your hand either on the screen or with the emoji if this resonates for you. Okay. Okay. So three. Yeah. Okay. So in case, River, you're like, sorry it took so long. I'm like, this question resonates for a lot of people. Okay. And so first off, when you use the language, break the pattern. The story I make up is this is bad. Okay. So I want us to again insert some compassion and empathy around the dynamic. It worked for a reason somewhere. You just want to understand, oh, this pattern of caretaking or whatever was emerged because it was adaptive in some way. Or I just understood it in a particular way when I was young. And now with new information, I can understand it in a different way. Anytime you think you have to fix something, you're in your teenager, which is not bad. I mean, like I said in the example voicemail, my teenager is like driving the bus a lot. Okay. So again, the goal is never perfection. The goal is not to be in your functional adult 100% of the time. It's not possible. We live in a society that is very, very toxic. And we interact with people who have internalized, us included, toxic beliefs. Okay. So it's less about breaking the pattern and more about identifying it. Like, oh, I'm on this ride now, right? Where I'm the fixer, or I'm on this ride now that I never get reciprocation in relationships, or I'm on this ride now where I'm not seen. And as you learn to identify the pattern, then the next step is to figure out, how do I pause the ride, or how do I get off that track, right? Something I start doing now is I don't need to know. I just need to start to name it with the person that I'm with. So in new relationships, I will do this. People think it's weird. I'm okay with that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm noticing I'm like really attuning right now because I'm so excited to meet you. Just in case you think I'm like this all the time, I'm not. Like, I have times where I just need to pull away. And so if I do that, I don't want you to take it personal. I have to manage my ADHD or my overwhelm or my workload, and I make it transparent, right? It's the next step where you get information on if this is a relationship that's going to fit your pattern or if it's going to exacerbate your pattern. That's weird. Why would you do that? What's wrong with you, right? Is a red flag. Okay.
Yeah.
Or if someone's like, oh, thank you for saying that. I do that too. Like, it almost feels performative. And so thank you for, that's a really cool way that you said it. That is like a green, yellow, like a green flag. Okay. And then what you want to do is, those are the little clues that you're going to take on if this is a relationship to invest more of yourself in. That does not mean if this is a person worthy. A person worthy of my time implies superiority. Superiority is white body supremacy. Okay. What we are figuring out is, this person who's as valuable as me, as special in a different way as me, if I'm going to be investing time in myself to developing this relationship, or if I'm not, if they're like codependent as fuck, they're not like this. They just got some wounding to deal with. Me too, right? Our society teaches us codependence is the ideal. So we have to just be actively like curious, because curiosity resides in our prefrontal cortex. Rightness or wrongness is in our limbic system, because we're in fight or flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
There
I
is a
think
little bit
there's
of
this,
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
there is this like instant gratification that's taught to us, like from social media, from like convenience, from, tech, that it's like, oh my gosh, I met this person. They're great. We're going to be best friends. My kid does that. She's like, oh, we're best friends. I'm like, have you had a fight? What do you mean? We're best friends. I'm like, you're not a best friend until you have a fight. And then you can see how strong you are. Okay, so just now so in young, like second grade, she was like, best friends, best friends. Now at seventh grade, best friend, because they've fought, right? They've argued. I've seen their apology texts. I see how they are with each other. I see how they express their love and appreciation for each other. I see how they're like, you're annoying me right now. Can you just be quiet? Right? My internet is unstable. Okay, so back to what I was saying. In any relationship, there has to be friction. It's just like a science, like it's just like science. Okay. So if like everything's going smooth and oh my gosh, this is like the easiest relationship ever, someone's performing. Okay.
Mhm.
Someone's not setting boundaries. Someone's being over accommodating. Okay. What were you saying? You were going to say something and I,
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I'll be honest, it feels a little bit awkward, especially when like, especially if it's a new person to be so transparent about like just letting you know like this is who I am, like this is the dynamic that comes up, you know. Um, but I do feel like it could be worthwhile to test out. Yeah.
Mhm. So awkward is going to be a good place than familiar. My relationships go quick into safety because I have been so transparent. And I will start like, hey, I'm so excited to have coffee with you today. I noticed that I'm a little anxious about this other thing. So if I look distracted, would you rather us reschedule or, So I'm super transparent so they can make an informed decision around my availability.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm excited to hear how it goes when we try it out.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Oh, yes. Go ahead. Zoom user.
User, hey everyone. I think thank you so much, Reva, for bringing all of this up. It's definitely also top of mind for me. And I've been talking to Judy about it on the one-on-one WhatsApp chat. Um, and maybe this is like my fixer coming up, but I've been wondering if it's, you mentioned, Judy, that like we're attracted to familiar patterns. So my problem solver is asking the question of like, should I heal some of those wounds that are being flared up when I am getting so attracted to certain people, and then find attraction to someone who's healthier versus having to start with someone who you know might be more similar to me, like less on. I feel like I'm butchering the way I'm communicating this, not in the most compassionate way, but like someone who also has a lot of work to do because of like a tumultuous childhood or being triggered really easily, and then working really, really hard to heal. Um, or is that just like too clinical to think about, even because everyone has stuff? I'm just curious, like, if I'm attracted to someone but not attracted to another, should I pursue the one I'm not potentially not attracted to because they're healthy and that's not familiar? And then attraction builds over time. And that saves me and the other person a lot of heartache. Yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about.
So let's just pause and I want you to notice what's happening in your body.
Um, my heart rate is up,
Mm-hmm.
which is common when I open up about stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
even um saying things that might be a little triggering.
So just put your hand there for a second. Okay. And then just orient as well. If you want hands for who this resonates with, we can. My teenager's like, no, not right now at all. Okay. So, first off, when you feel into your chest, what's the emotion?
Um, I think it's fear.
Yes. Fear about. Breathe,
Um,
breathe. And if this is too much, just tell me, okay?
no, this is great.
Okay.
Not great at being in tune with how I'm feeling, so it's
Mhm.
helpful. Fear of just being hurt and like too stressed out all the time, which has been the norm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to repeat what I heard you say. Okay. But I want to just remind, like, so when we get activated in our body, we put our attention there, our hand there, and we go, what's the emotion? When we identify the emotion, we can go, who's driving the bus?
I think the fear part might be driven more by like the inner child in fear of like survival and getting what they need. And then there's probably some of like the teenager too being afraid of not getting it right, to save maybe the inner child in some way.
Yes, to protect. So there's no more heartbreak, you said, right?
Yeah.
So when you identify who might be driving the bus, so when we identify who's driving the bus, that informs us how to reparent. So if our wounded child and our teenager are driving the bus, we address both of them. So I might start with my wounded child, right? I have them on my lap and I gently raise their chin to me and I say, only look to me, sweetheart. I am here. And I love you. Remember, I'm the one you've been waiting for, and I'm going to see you, and I'm going to have your back, and I'm going to adore you. You don't have to do anything to earn that love. I'm here now, and I've got you. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Okay? And then you just sense into that and see if they need anything else, need any other assurance, right? Basically, like, I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm not going to let you go invisible and like just focus on the other person's needs. I need you just to focus on me. Okay. Me, the functional adult. And then for the teenager, bump shoulders. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. You have survived impossible situations, and the ways that you've adapted have gotten us to this place right now. And I am so proud of you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry you've had to do this for so long. And I'm here now. Right? Only look to me, not to these two options. Right? Only to me for your validation and your love, your assurance. I've got your back. You don't have to do anything to earn my love. I've got you. I'm the one you've been waiting for. Okay. So teenagers need respect, validation. It makes total sense that you're anxious about this. It makes total sense you're afraid of making a mistake. I get it. The third thing a teenager needs is a boundary, and I'm here now. I need you to stop driving the bus and looking for the right answer, because the only way we're going to meet someone who sees us is to be vulnerable with boundaries. And I'm here, functional adult, who's going to be very clear about what they are. And I'm going to move slowly, and I'm not going to put you in any situations that are going to be unsafe for anyone. Okay. And so once you regulate those two, you're closer to your functional adult. Okay. The teenager wants to go, do I go for this one that's like really boring, or do I go for this one who's really, really exciting? And I'm telling you, you're going to learn something different from those two relationships. There is no way you're going to know who they are until you meet them. And you meet them by fully showing up as yourself. Right? Because guess what? Everyone's wounded. Everyone's got baggage. Everyone's got adaptations. And you just have to figure out if they're going to be honest about it. If they're going to be authentic and be like, yeah, sometimes I'm really nervous about getting rejected. Or I'm kind of worried that you're not attracted to me. Because then from there, you have something to build. There's no way for us to know from the beginning. Right? And so if they're love bombing us and like, oh my gosh, you're the best thing in the world, and I am so in love with you from the beginning, you just want to go, interesting. What's my favorite color? What's my favorite food? Do you know any of my allergies? Right? Like, you just want to question. Right? Don't believe everything they say. Watch closely what they do, and then figure out how you feel in your body. Okay. The thing is, attachment woundings or relational woundings, that's what we're working on, is really hard to do on your own, right? Like the thing that I recorded about my neighbor, the emails that have been responded since have been wonderful. I was super transparent about why it was so hard for me to set a boundary. I was afraid that they were going to hate me and then like punish me and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, no. And I was like, okay, I can tell you the truth now. I don't want to do the basement, you know? And it was like such a relief. I've been here for 12 years and we've never had conflict because I was always pleasing, right? So if I do not show up at my full authenticity, there is no way I can see the other person because I haven't given them the opportunity to show up in the ways that I need, right? So my suggestion is if you got these two options, try, right? Notice what it feels like to be in, you know, on a date with this person that's not super attractive to me, but like nice, right? That's a lot of risk you can take in that because you can be fully present, right? And you can try like getting to know them. And the other person who maybe you're super attracted to, go slower and just be like a little bit and then just journal and write it down, right? You're going to learn different things in different relationships. And I'm going to tell you this last thing. You're going to get your heart broken. That is the risk of intimate relationships. And what you need to tell your wounded child and all of the other ones too, you're going to be okay. This is not your mom or your dad or your, right? When we were young children, if we didn't get the love from our caregiver, we would die. That's why that fear is so intense. In adulthood, we're going to be heartbroken, but we will not die. Because we have the fully formed brain, resources we can access to help us, right? We're going to call in community. We're going to call in, you know, all these other things to shore us up so we can get through and figure out like, okay, that didn't happen. Nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with them. Just the dynamic was not a good match. Does that make sense? Which does not mean you don't hold accountability for harm, right?
That was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if anyone's on the dating scene, I suggest you date like research, like you're doing an experiment. So just date a lot of people, right? Very like casually, not like physically intimate too fast, right? Because that's gonna mess with the hormones or the chemicals in your brain. And then just date and go, oh, this is attractive. And then just write down in a list what you're attracted to, what you like as research. And the more you go out, it's a little less like stakes, right? Because you have a lot that you're kind of getting to know. Does that make sense? Any other questions? It doesn't have to be around this. Anything. Something someone else was naming was their shame around not knowing that they weren't going to be as available emotionally during this time for this group. Right? And like kind of feeling bad about not accessing or whatever. And I was like, how does shame serve you? Shame is like, there's something wrong with me. Okay. So first day lesson was there's nothing wrong with you. It's just information, right? I did it during the holidays because holidays are typically really hard for people. And personally, I needed to have a group to get me through this particular holiday season. Okay. And so if you're not available or if you're not accessing it in a certain way that you had intended, you just want to go, so how can I think of this so I have my back? Okay, that was good learning. Next time when I sign up for a class, I'm going to make sure that my schedule is clear and I'm more resourced. That was a worthwhile learning, you know? Basically, the functional adult is always going to have your back, which does not mean the functional adult is going to excuse you for very poor behavior against somebody else and harm them, right? The functional adult is going to make sure that you feel like you're given the benefit of the doubt, that you're allowed to make mistakes or do something impulsive, right? They're always going to have your back. So there is no one way or one wrong way. There is no right partner and wrong partner. There is no one right thing. There is only one decision and then data. And based on the data that you get back, you can make another decision. Right? Something I tell my clients, and they're like, how should I do this as a job? And I'm like, that's too much investment. Because if you decide you want to be like, a lot harder to pivot, right?
Judy, you cut out for like
Oh,
a
sorry.
10 seconds. No worries.
So I was saying, like, don't start with the goal. Start with the one next thing. Right? I think I like photojournals, so I'm going to try like writing, or I'm going to try to take pictures and see how that feels, right? So that you can pivot easily. Okay? Oftentimes when people make the decision to do a goal in that way, it's like it's so much harder to change their mind or quit the job or leave this industry because they've invested so much time already. You know, so you just want to do the one next thing and then get behind it and then get the data. Shame is not helpful. Shame is protective. Another thing I want to talk about is, so my internet's cut out like 3 times. Old Judy would be like, oh my God, I should have restarted my router. This is going to be so embarrassing. People are going to think that I'm not because I would need it to be perfect, to present a particular way, or to be received a particular way, because my ego was very, very fragile. Like I could not take criticism before because it would mean like something was wrong with me. I should have thought of that, right? But now I'm like, internet's bad. We'll see how the recording goes. No big deal. You know, someone edits my stuff. They're like, I don't know, this is weird. I'm like, I don't care. Let's put it up. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. Because guess who's in control of my perception? Me. Right? If someone wants to have a perfect coach, I am not that coach for them. That's good. It doesn't have to look shiny and perfect, right? And so that's something to just consider, that a functional adult is going to be very, very forgiving. And like, yeah, that sucked. Let's have some ice cream and watch a show. No big deal. Tomorrow's a new day. You know, like it's okay. We have 16 minutes for anyone who might need some time. Go ahead, Reva.
Oh, actually, I think
Oh, Sandrine
Sandrine might have un
made the
Okay.
video.
her
Oh, do
video,
that.
so
Let's have
wanna
Sandrine go
let her
first. Is that okay, Reva? Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Was-
go ahead.
No, that's
Okay.
okay.
Yes, I was driving this entire time. I just got home. So, um, this was really great. All of it. Thanks, Judy.
Mhm,
I am wondering about, I just had a thought based on something you said like 2 minutes ago.
mhm.
Um, and it's not fully formed, but I'm gonna just shoot and see what happens. But
Do it.
basically, yeah, like, you know, even the idea that I'm coming on and y'all are talking about dating, I'm like, oh God. Like, and I a few months ago had a situation where I met someone, I went out on a limb, not really having any criteria about who I should have around me, but just the fact that, like, you know, that's a person that I could like hang out with. And it turned out bad, right? Like, I was rejected, it was weird, and I kind of determined I'm done. Like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. Like, dating, who has time for that? So I think in some ways I've connected the choice, or at least the decision, with like some level of maturity. Like, I made that choice because I don't want to just hang with somebody and, you know, this is wise because you don't know how to do relationships. So let's like not try. Good one. Why did we think of this earlier? And then, but somehow learning these things, I'm wondering um which part of me actually made that choice.
Yeah,
Because,
perfect.
yeah.
Pause.
Mhm.
Go do that. Where do you feel in your body?
Well, in my life, I don't know if y'all can see. Um, I don't know. Okay, so what I was gonna say is I'm in, so that's my parking spot. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like these two yellow thingies where I usually park, and I'm distressed. Yo, why is that in my parking spot? But beyond that, I feel exposed, like vulnerable, like, these people know me.
Okay.
Yeah,
So where do you feel that in your body?
always in my chest.
Okay,
Things
so
always.
just put a hand in your chest
Okay.
and just acknowledge the truth. I'm feeling really vulnerable right now.
Yes, I'm feeling very vulnerable right now.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Did you fall over your driver's wheel? Did you die?
I am self-destructing as we speak. You just hit
Okay. I'm just waiting for the
boo boo.
yes, exactly. Okay. So
Yeah. Okay.
was that okay to say, to joke about it?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And I don't know if this is appropriate, but I do want to just affirm that everything you were saying about how you do relationships is true. Like, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
here's the thing.
yeah. Hmm.
I'm not special. You're not special. I
Hmm.
can I can hypothesize these things because it's a pattern. It's predictable, right? So
Hmm.
that means you can also adjust it as you need. So first off, who's driving the bus that's feeling vulnerable?
Um, who's driving the bus that's feeling vulnerable? It is a part of me that feels the need to protect my image.
Okay, who's that?
I imagine that's a teen or a tween.
Yes, 100%.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody, so who are they protecting?
Um,
Who else is
Me.
driving the bus?
Oh, well, I imagine that there's some kind of there's a smaller version, like a more vulnerable version that is needing protection from these parts, like the image of like coolness, or I think I used to call myself Rico Suave or something. Uh, um, that was there to protect the part of me that feels like, not cool, actually.
What age? Wounded
Um,
child, tween, or teen?
well, I got hips and boobs when I was 13.
So before then,
So before then.
okay?
Uh-huh.
The vulnerable part of you
Mm-hmm.
is usually the wounded child,
Mm-hmm.
because that's developmentally the one who cannot protect themselves.
Okay.
Developmentally, the one who would literally die if they were abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So when you know the little one is activated and the teenager's protective, you have to then reparent them.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to do that, or do you want me to offer some suggestions?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I might go with the teenager who's like fit to be tied, like, fuck this, like, and be like, I know, right? I'm so proud of you. You totally called it on this person. So, yeah, makes total sense that you want to like swear off dating. It sucks, right? You've been hurt so much and you've gotten here and you're able to do things on your own. And I'm so proud of you. Makes sense that you don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how cool you are. And I need you only to look to me because I'm the only one who's going to be able to see you fully, right? And I'm going to have your back, and I'm always going to affirm how cool you are, and I'm going to protect your ego, and I'm going to make sure you don't take things personally, and I'm not going to let, any jerks be close to us, right? I'm going to protect you, right? So I need you to take your white knuckled fingers off this driver's wheel and just chill out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else a teenager needs to hear?
Well, it's thinking of a specific situation very briefly. I'm going through a lot of things, and one of my exes randomly wants to check in on me, and I'm going to speak to them on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think the teenager's like, okay, so how deep can we get with what's really going on? What's that going to show? It's going to show that we fell apart when they left, and
Mm-hmm. Makes
so
total sense that you want to do that. Remember, teenager, only look to me, right? We don't have to give up everything and share everything to be known. I know you, only look to me, right? I'm going to slowly open us up and I'm going to see the response slowly. Okay. So don't worry. We're going to take this slow and see if it's like reaching out for a good reason, right? Or if there's something else, and I'm going to discern it because I'm going to practice, right? And you remind your teenager, I'm not going to do it perfectly because I'm human and the other person is human too. They have their own wounding and they have their own adaptations, and I'm going to make sure I protect them too. Okay. And then while the teenager's like, but what about this? Like, you just be like, shh. Okay. You hold the little one and you just be like, oh my God, I got you. Right? You might rock her. Maybe like, oh, you have felt so lonely. I'm making up stories. So just like edit out anything that doesn't fit. You have been so lonely. And, I know that you've worried about people leaving. And I need you to look at me. Like, you just cup her cheeks. Just be like, none of that had to do with you. None of it. They had their own stuff going on. None of it had to do with you because you are perfect. And I'm here now and I've got you. And I have your back. And just let me hold you. And I'm going to protect you. And I'm never going to leave you. And I'm going to make sure that the teenager also doesn't parent you because she's not. but we're not going to tell her because she's got a very fragile ego and we love her anyway. Right?
Wait, it cut out when you said that. What are we not telling?
So I'm joking with the little one and I'm going to say, I'm going to make sure the teenager doesn't parent you anymore
Okay.
because she's not very good at it.
Okay.
Because, yeah, she just needs to be a teenager and I'm going to take care of her. Right.
Mm.
And don't take it personal what the teenager says. They're just trying to protect you. But only look to me because I've got your back now. And remember, little one, says the functional adult, you cannot be abandoned anymore. Because I am here now and I am the one that you've always been waiting for. And I love you. And you don't have to do a fucking thing for me to love you.
Mm.
Okay? And the moment the teenager's gonna be like, well, yeah, just a little noisy, just be like, I know. Shh. Right? Just be like, shit, you know. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna practice regulating your little ones. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. Reva.
I don't remember now, but it wasn't like it wasn't burning, so it's totally fine. If I
So
remember, I'll let you know, but that's okay.
Okay. I have one question, which is how to discern if someone is emotionally available. Things that I do. If I'm texting with someone and it's just like, hey, I've got something that I need someone to talk with. It's a little heavy, but I think I just need like 15 to 20 minutes. Do you have time? And their response is like, oh, yes, later on, right? And they come back, like they follow through, then they're available, right? Or if they're able to say like, oh, I'm not in a place to be able to do that. I'm so sorry. Do you have other supports? They're emotionally available. If they do not respond, it's an indicator that they're not emotionally available because they're avoiding the no, right? So you want to just keep doing little things like that, right? Of like just testing out. And it's not testing like see if they pass the test. It's like different people have different capacity for emotional availability depending on their childhood, depending on their family of origin, if their family of origin talked about feelings, right? If they've done their own work or not. So something to consider. My experience as a couples counselor in my terribly failed marriage, who I care about this person very much because we have created the most amazing kids for me, right? If someone has not done their therapy and you have been very wounded, there will not be resonance. It will be very, very hard for someone who had middle-class existence, stable family, pretty steady trajectory to understand any type of major disappointment or major life upheaval or chaotic family system. They just won't get it. It's not because they're bad, right? And if you need that type of depth and emotional availability and connection, then it's just they're not going to get you. You're not going to feel seen, right? So that's just something to really consider is if you're looking for emotional connection and depth, you need to see if someone's committed to their, development journey, kind of like exploring things, if they're open to new ideas. That's what you're going to be looking for. Does that help? Does that help? Yeah. If you have specific examples, I can see if it's like which flag.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot. And I've noticed this in my personal life too. And I'm just gonna say this in the most raw way, but I feel like I've had a lot of like tough things, so I have a complicated background, and I get along best with people who come from complicated backgrounds because they can understand me. And sometimes when I am around like the type of person you described, like just steady life, whatnot, I think I used to feel a little bit unworthy that I couldn't connect with them because I saw folks like that as like better. But I think
Mhm.
now I'm just more grateful that I've been able to find connection with people who can understand me better and have had to like look inwards because they've had hard things to go through. And I think there's beauty in that. But yeah, that's
Mhm.
for me, that too has been a criteria of like, okay, are yeah, can they understand the immigrant background, the queer background, the tumultuous childhood background, like,
The
and
genocide back. I mean, this,
Yeah.
like that is huge to understand life and death feelings that come up.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, and are they doing the work themselves? Because yeah, otherwise it's the fixer might come out, or yeah, it just might not be.
Or the brokenness. So that's what the dynamic I see in couples that, one has a steady and the other one doesn't. They don't understand how much effort it takes for this person who's not had a steady life, who has very chaotic family system, to get up every day. Right? Because this one has had so much privilege and access to resources. And this one's starting here. So this one's like, and this one's like, right? I remember I purchased this marketing program, and this white man. I don't have anything against white people. Okay. My therapist is a white man. My astrologer is a lovely white man. Like, this is not against white people. I got this like marketing course from this man, and he's like, you're going to connect with your audience by talking about disappointment, like that year that you couldn't go to your trip to Florida or like Hawaii or something. And I was like, that's the disappointment that you're telling me, that you couldn't go on a cushy vacation? I was like, no, that was a write-off. That was good information. Just there's no resonance, right? Yeah. Thank you.
I had a quick follow-up thought, real quick. I think to that point, I think I have found myself trying or gravitating towards people who are like up there, who like where I'm like every day thinking about genocide and like posting stuff and researching the kinds of people that are like, yeah, because I guess it gives, in the past, it's given my nervous system some kind of like
Respite to be with people who don't get it.
People who are not as, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. People who are not as wound up. These relationships never really last because eventually it's like, you don't see the world that I see, but they, they know where the fun's at, and they know where the, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's not really a question as much as it's an observation of how, how I have experienced being in relationship with those people. I guess there's space for that as long as there are proper boundaries, I imagine. Right?
Yeah. The thing is, we're not assessing value here, right? Like, not one is not better than the other. Like, the fun people are not better or worse than the depth people, right?
Right.
It just impacts how close you're going to be, how much time you're going to spend, how intimate you're going to be, right? Yeah, I want to know where the party's at, where the good food is, I totally do. But I'm not going to tell those people, I'm not going to talk to them about the genocide and how we're going to undo this post-capitalistic society. And they're not going to get it. But I'm going to go have sushi with them. You know what I mean?
Right. Balance.
So it's a balance. It's understanding like we need everyone.
Right.
We need everyone including the clueless, because then it shows the opposite,
Yeah.
right?
I think there's a part of me that wants, like, I wish I could live in your la la land too. Ah, but
Mhm,
I probably don't even really want that. But yeah.
mhm, mhm. So we're at
Ah,
the end of our time. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So next Thursday night is our next group. We're going to have new case studies and small groups that you're going to be able to do breakout rooms with. In case anyone's uncomfortable, that is okay. You're going to be okay. And it's not going to go perfect, and it's going to be okay. Right? So I'll see you next Thursday. And I will also talk about an opportunity for continuing in a program called Boundaries 2.0. I'm figuring that out. So I wanted to offer a continuation for folks who are interested. Have a wonderful night. So lovely to hang with you, and I will talk to you soon.